Hello there, Yvonne Guibert here.
Hey there, Rafael Gonzalez here.
Hi, this is Steve Feinberg.
Hi, Dr. Feinberg. How are you today?
I'm just super. Thank you for asking. How about the two of you?
We are amazing. And before I forget to say, so most everybody knows that Rafael and I are here in Tampa Bay, Florida. Dr. Feinberg, share with our listeners where you are joining us from.
I'm in Palo Alto, California in my office.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, so what we are talking about is the fact that we had the Comp Laude Awards just a couple of weeks ago, and you were a recipient of the Comp Laude Physician Award.
That is very true.
So how does it make you feel, Dr. Feinberg? Let me just preface this by saying, you've been a part of the Comp Laude family for, I think, since nearly the beginning. You've been on the advisory board. And so you're very familiar with how things work and how things go. So knowing that, how does it make you feel to know that you were the recipient of the award this year?
Well, I mean, the simple answer is that great, but without prolonging the discussion, I did, as many people knew, Dave DiPaolo, and he was inspiring. We had some great talks together, and I shared with him this belief that you need to be positive. You need to make good change. You should never give up. And, I think much to my happiness, WorkCom Central and Comp Laude has continued on in that vein of basically emphasizing the positive in workers' comp. Out here in the real world, you hear a lot of negatives. And I speak to a lot of doctors as a senior guy, and I'm constantly telling people, it's not all bad. We can make changes. That's part of our job, to be positive, to help injured workers get better. So in terms of the award, I'm kind of drifted on your question. I'm quite honored.
Well, thank you for sharing. But I think from my perspective, it's nice to see you, since you have contributed so much to the Comp Laude mission and vision over the years. I'm happy to see you be the recipient of this award. So thank you. Ralph, you have any questions for Dr. Feinberg?
I do. So Dr. Feinberg, I'm interested in where you were leading us through that conversation, because those thoughts are so significant, are so important, because you're right. Down here in the real world, right, there is a lot of negativity. There are a lot of issues and a lot of concerns and a lot of problems that folks are dealing with all the time. So it just warms my heart to know that there are professionals like you who've been doing this for a long time that truly remain compassionate and adamant that it can be better and that we can make that difference. So first I wanted to hear your thoughts a little more about that.
Well, I don't want to go off on a tangent or a lecture, but we have a problem in work comp. There are too many people involved. When I get injured, I go next door to the clinic. I get seen either in urgent care immediately. No one's ever said denial of this or that or the other thing. And I can see my internist or an orthopedist within a few days if I need to. The system in workers' comp, and it's not that there's a bad person or a bad player, but when you have an injured worker and you deny a body part or you deny an injury, you're basically setting up a disaster situation. Yeah. And I think physicians are part of the problem, because sometimes we focus on just the purely physical injury and not the whole person. And there's really good evidence that how we react to being injured has a lot to do with who we are. It's not about good people or bad people, but the really great physician is going to take into account all aspects of the injured worker's presentation. But it's very hard in this environment to deal with all the friction between the players and some of the animosity, frankly. And, the only thing that keeps, when doctors tell me they're burning out, I tell them, focus on one injured worker that you can help. In our program here, we have what we call a functional restoration program. And it actually brings tears to my eyes and to everyone's eyes when we literally take someone who is down and out on narcotics and we actually get them back to work. and it's not that complicated, but it's just so joyful. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to do this kind of work. I should be paying someone else instead of me being paid.
Oh, I love that. I just love that. I love that. I really, really do. That's awesome. You're making a difference. You're making a difference in people's lives every single day, Dr. Feinberg. So we're grateful. We're so incredibly happy and grateful that you're continuing to do that. And hence the reason why folks, saw fit that that you be the recipient of the award this year. So tell me a little bit about what does it mean to you, having done this now for a long time, what does it say about your past, and more significantly, maybe what does it mean about the future? What do you take it to mean with regard to that particular point?
It's really not about me. It's about a system that's trying to improve. I want to give you an example if I can. So I was getting a lot of criticism, not at me, but by some doctor friends of mine about one of the payers or the administrators, and they were going to write complaints to the DWC and, all these things. I said, wait a minute, why don't I call them and set up a meeting? So we called it, we had a meeting a week ago, and this particular head of, workers' comp for a national company was so delightful. He had no idea what was the problems we're having. And he actually is working hard to fix them. And so I think all of us need to take a step back and try to be decent with each other, compassionate, and focus on the one thing that's so important, helping the injured workers get their lives back and get them back to work.
Where have we heard that before, Ralph?
Oh my gosh, that is a continuing theme in every one of our conversations. I love that. I just love that.
So let me pivot now a little bit before we wrap up, but continuing, because you've already shared a little bit, and I want to know how you plan. You've already had a long career of doing work in this way. Like you said, you had conversations with David DiPaolo about focusing on the positive, not the negative. What are your plans for the future for how you plan to continue to be a positive influence in our industry? So
I do a lot of writing and teaching. I'm on the DWC California Quality Committee. I'm on the Western Occupational Environmental Medicine Association Quality Committee. I'm working with the California Society of Industrial Medicine and Surgery. I wrote up a paper on how to do a quality report, and the California Orthopedic Association sent it out to all their doctors. So I'm literally involved every day with endeavors to make things a little bit better. And frankly, I also see injured workers, and I give lectures every week to our patients. And I really encourage them to take charge of their life, become the master of their own fate. And frankly, sometimes despite the system they're in, to move on with their life and get better.
That's wonderful. I know that you do a lot of work, and you just mentioned several of those endeavors. So thank you for the work that you do. But I'm going to ask you one more question. If you had to pick, you already mentioned that, the system is overly complicated. There's too many people involved. When you're talking about, how many people an injured worker has to see throughout the course of their recovery. If you could focus on one thing to change in the industry, what would that be?
You really want to hear this, huh?
I do.
Yeah.
I think there's a simple solution, and that's to have an ombudsperson from day one for the injured worker. It's not that the injured worker is right or wrong what their belief is. The ones I see are just lost in the system. And we just had someone who could do what I talked about doing, making a phone call, explaining why a body part wasn't accepted. Just that little bit of encouragement, I think would be the one big step. I know that Becky Curtis has a company called Take Care Coaching. And
Take Courage Coaching.
Oh, God, that's embarrassing. Yes, of course, I know that. See, I'm allowed to do that when I get older. So, but there are other companies like that. I really think that would be a very inexpensive way to improve the system very quickly.
Okay, so I lied. I said I was going to ask you one more question, but I'm going to ask you another. So what do we need to do to make that happen?
Well, I'm out there pushing that agenda in every, on the committees I am. I know that's one of our top priorities in one of the groups I'm on, but we just need to keep talking about it. And, to me, it's so cost effective to provide good care. It closes cases early. When you look at the numbers, and I'm off on the numbers, but 85% of the cases, or the 20% of the cases use 85% of the money. And these
Sure.
aren't even catastrophic injuries.
Right.
And so we could literally save the industry millions and millions and billions of dollars by just working better together. But there are barriers, but I think there are a lot, if you go to the national meetings, if you go to Work Comp Central, to the Comp Laude, you hear people talk about the things I'm talking about. This is not something that I just thought up. The whole concept of the whole person, of the biopsychosocial approach, that we know so much, we're having trouble putting it into effect, but we shouldn't give up.
Well, thank you for your thorough answer. I love that answer. And I hope that we will, as the advisory board folks, I'm going to come to you guys and we're going to talk about what conversations we need to have next year. So I hope to see this as one of those conversations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Feinberg. So proud of the work that you have been doing and continue to do, and even prouder to hear of your continuing engagement and how you want to continue to work to improve the system. So thank you so much. Grateful for your time today.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you, Dr. Feinberg. Congratulations once again. And I know that we will be talking in the near future.